Well, hello and welcome to the Moviegoers Society podcast brought to you by Nerdtropolis. I'm your host, Sean Tarjaper, the mayor of Nerdtropolis. And joining me, as always, is Drew Manhausen, the professional media and movie mastermind. But we have a special guest on this episode. Our good friend, Jahan from Fresh Out the Podcast. Come on in. The price is right.
Now, to give Jahan full credit, because it is him, we are both over on Fresh Out the Podcast most weeks, I'd say. And Jahan is the one that gave me the professional media and movie mastermind title. So I must give him his due credit here because he is the board game guru and game master extraordinaire.
Yes, that I am.
And also, I was so happy to be part of y'all's podcast as a guest all the time. And really, Jahan has encouraged me to do a lot of things, from TikToking more to podcasting. So we have to thank you, Jahan. That's what we have to do.
Oh, I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, no, I'm happy to help. Happy to be a part of things.
We're excited that you're here because you joined us for movie night. It was a date night amongst us nerds here. So on this episode, we're raging into one of the most anticipated horror returns in years. But Drew, you got something that came in the mail?
I do. Yeah, I received from Blumhouse and Universal the 4K copy of Drop, a movie that we actually reviewed here on the show. Sean
put it up. I got mine too. And Jahan can pretend he got one too.
It's actually a movie that I have thought about a decent amount since we saw it. And I, as like a thriller that takes place mostly in one restaurant with like kind of an extreme premise, I feel like it's very fun. And I think back on it fondly.
Drew, not Drew. Jahan, have you seen Drop yet?
I have not.
We will gift you with one of these things.
Ooh, I'll watch it. Yeah, that'd be great.
It's a lot of fun. The guessing game is actually really good too. So I'm not gonna spoil anything, but the guessing game is actually pretty fun when you get into that of what's going on and who's who and stuff like that.
I love that.
A pretty solid win from Blumhouse. I mentioned this before. I don't know if Jahan knows, but I was at the premiere for this at South by Southwest, and Jason Blum and Michael Bay were in attendance, and I bailed right when I saw Michael Bay left for the party, so I can go say hi to him before I had to drive back home. But that was an amazing moment to have literally an empty party, just me and Michael Bay talking just for a few minutes, and I bolted to come back home. So it was well worth it. So I have
That's
to thank
super cool, man.
That is the fun thing. But yeah, we are talking about 28 years later. I snuck into 28 Days Later back in the day. That was my first rated R film. I remember getting a ticket for, I don't know what film it was. Went to like the second row in the front, sat there nervously and watched this movie. And I know one of the employees came in they usually come in to check sometimes, but they did not notice me. I was able to enjoy this movie that made me fall in love with the zombie genre, honestly. I'm not a zombie fanatic. I don't really go crazy for it, but something about that movie really kind of stuck with me. I liked 28 Weeks Later, so this franchise has really piqued my interest. And now 3 decades later, we're back with Boyle and Garland returning to the world they created. So first off, I'll be real. I'm going to say, we're going to go through our initial reactions, I think, right out the theater. I liked 28 Years Later, but I didn't love it. I wanted to because I was so hyped for this. And the first 30 and 40 minutes, to me, I was fully in. And I like the world we came back to. And I just love Boyle and Garland together. I think they make a great duo. But for me, in general, it didn't stick the landing I was expecting. So, Jahan, did this feel like a worthy return to the franchise for you, or did it fall short? What's your initial reaction when you walked out of the theater?
And Jahan, and give your history with this movie too, because I will hype up Jahan and say he is our resident zombie expert over on Fresh Out the Podcast. He is an enthusiast of the undead, I would say, and I want to know your history with this one too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, I watch zombie movies are like my favorite thing. I watch all of them, even from other countries. I get real deep into it. But yeah, 28 Days Later, uh, shook up the whole genre. It's really where we started seeing, infected versus undead kind of zombie action going on. You had the fast sprinting zombies that were horrifying. It changed all the rules, and that was exciting for the genre for sure. Other movies started incorporating this kind of like to the fast zombies and bloodborne infections, and people experimented with like airborne stuff, that kind of thing. But it all started here, and I feel that 28 years later continued to try to change things. To its credit, it tried to do some different stuff when it comes to the genre as a whole, and I respect it for that. But yeah, I'm in a very similar boat to Sean. I feel like about 40 minutes in, like I was like, man, this might be like the best movie of the year. And then things took some turns, and I was like, okay, this is it. It was almost like someone else was writing it all of a sudden. The tone shifts were strange. All in all, my initial reaction was I like the movie. I would watch it again, probably a lot, because I just like seeing zombies eat people. So
Love hearing that. So, Drew, what were your first impressions walking out on this one? And also talk about your relationship with that franchise.
Yeah, so I actually have less of a relationship to the franchise. Full transparency, when I was younger in my teenage years, I kind of had an aversion to horror movies at that time. Like I mean, honestly, I got genuinely scared by them. I didn't like jump scares and would avoid them where I could. And, you know, you go to friends' houses and in groups would watch horror movies in that setting, that kind of thing. But like otherwise on my own, I would kind of avoid them. I have come to, especially within the last, like I'd say 10 years, really come to appreciate them and have caught up on many of them. And I have totally reversed on the genre as a whole. And so really love all things horror and gore. That being said, I didn't catch 28 years later or excuse me, 28 days later until maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. And at that time, it was kind of part of me catching up on all of Danny Boyle's filmography and movies that I hadn't watched. So I wasn't watching this with a bunch of horror movies. I was watching this with movies like Trainspotting and a rewatch of Slumdog Millionaire and things like that. So kind of in a different context. That being said, I did really enjoy 28 Days Later and realized when watching them like in that context, I'm like, oh, this is very much a Danny Boyle movie and putting his spin on a genre film. And I think that's why 28 Days Later kind of defied the genre. It is kind of more of a slow burn at times, and it really turns it on its head. It's not traditional jump scare horror at all. So having come to that conclusion, I was very excited for this one. And I think that now that I've had a day to process it, I maybe am a little bit higher on it than both of you, which I feel like is I'm usually like the one ready to poo-poo on something when that's not the case here. But I will say I do think it is certainly an imperfect movie, but I'm happy that it exists and took some swings and did some things I didn't expect. And I'd say overall, I really enjoyed the experience. But again, to reemphasize, I think it is imperfect. I think it has some actually pretty glaring flaws, but I still kind of have a soft spot for it despite that. So I think that's where I'm landing on it.
I'll say this. I think you mentioned the slow burn of 28 Days Later. I think that's the highlight of the franchise and the movies, and especially this one, are the slow burn moments. Like my favorite scenes in 28 Days Later are the slow burns and the kind of the more happier, moments too, when they're actually enjoying the life and the crazy world that they're part of and enjoying these 2-minute moments until crazy and chaos comes to them. And there's a lot of moments in here that are like that I really enjoy as well. I'll bring this up as we jump into this. Oh, there we go. We have 3 now, so now let's see how these layouts look. So this is fantastic. The fact that we're gonna get maybe spoilerish, we're gonna say it a little bit because I was excited when I saw Aaron Taylor Johnson part of this film. And in this movie, he's such a strong lead. First of all, in anything he is, he's such a strong lead. I love it. And early on, we see him with his son Alfie, or Spike, played by Alfie Williams. And I love this dynamic of them. Pretty much the story is them going into the mainland and teaching his son pretty much to kill his first zombie. It's father-son bonding, which I love about the story. But it's only part of the story that we're introduced to, because afterwards, and I'm not going to go too much into what happens, but pretty much Aaron Taylor Johnson gets sidelined, and that's where I felt like the movie just took a wild turn. So I want to start off there about, were you surprised with this pivot of really thinking he was going to be in the movie or the main lead of our film, but then to be sidelined? And we'll start with Jahan.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff with him, I agree completely. Like the movie, that was where the movie was flowing. You were getting the flavor of the world. He was kind of explaining things to Alfie, and through that to the audience. And I felt like, I don't know, it felt their dynamics were very good. I think he played the stern father figure very well. You get the tension that's between them. You get all that kind of background stuff just from their acting. And, but I don't know, in some ways I felt he was a really good dad at teaching his son, because the world is messed up and his son does need to be tough to survive it. Maybe he goes a little too far at some points, but that's really where the movie was at its peak for me. And once he got sidelined, I was surprised. He was doing such a good job. Like, he really became the role. It almost didn't seem like him, his accent was spot on. He really was part. If he felt like a lived-in character, and I don't know why they decided to take him out of the movie, but
And we're gonna say, I'm gonna keep saying spoilers and stuff because we all want to talk about this stuff. He is not killed or anything. He's just not part of the story. He's just sidelined and put away. And I love Aaron Taylor Johnson. He's so underrated, even though he has had great roles. His ability to play any of these roles that he's playing is amazing, and he really makes everything he does believable. Drew, did you feel like his character strained the story, or have you preferred, maybe a different way of Aaron Taylor Johnson being used as well, or just where you find with him being sidelined?
Yeah, so I'm kind of hit and miss on Aaron Taylor Johnson as a performer in general. Like there are some movies I really like him in, and some movies like I think as recent as Craven the Hunter I thought physically he kind of fit, but there are parts of the performance I really didn't like. And whereas like in this, I did not have that issue at all. I actually really liked him in this role and playing the father. And he does get sidelined for a bit. There's a large portion of the beginning is featuring him hunting with his son, teaching his son to hunt, but not hunting game, hunting the infected. And I really enjoyed that dynamic, and it did. I will say it subverted my expectations, because I was like, oh, this is going to be something where like the dad gets killed off and the son's forced to be on his own, and that doesn't happen. But he is sidelined for other reasons, and it takes a pivot. And I think I was sad to see that to an extent, but now knowing some things that I know now, it makes a little bit more sense. But we'll get into that maybe at the end of our conversation.
Maybe we can go into it now. I think, so yeah, boom, he's sidelined. The story shifts to focus Spike's story, the son and his mom, Jodie Comer's character, who is sick. And so after Spike learns there is a doctor in the mainland, after they come back to the village, he takes his mom, goes back to the mainland, and searches for this doctor. And yeah, the father-son duo is no longer as well. Let's talk about Jodie Comer. I think she is a chameleon actress, amazing in everything she does. I really loved her in the Bike Riders, and seeing
once
her
you get over the accent, which is actually spot on and really good. You just, when you watch the movie, it takes you back a little bit.
Yeah, so having Jodie Comer part of this, and also we have Ray Fiennes, and so this is the doctor they find. This is where like a lot of the thematic and the messaging comes into play, and some really powerful performances from all of them, to be honest. So how did their additions and their performances land for you, Jahan?
Yeah, Jodie Comer, she did a great job as the mom. She portrayed the mental illness very believably, and heartbreakingly. It
Not even
was,
really a mental illness. I mean, she had a true illness. Well, or I
Right.
mean, I don't want
yeah,
to get into it, but like it's clear that she is not well, and I don't,
yeah,
you
she,
know, and
Well, it affects her
it's from
mentally.
something
I mean,
physical.
it's affecting her brain and her. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, she plays it very well. You know, she's definitely losing touch. And you know, you feel for her, and she has a really good dynamic with her son. They play really well on screen. I have no issue with the addition of her character. I feel like things were done strangely. Like, I feel like it's more believable for him to have snuck off from his father when they were out there to go bring the doctor or something. I don't know. It was a weird beat, but I'm not going to rewrite the whole movie.
No. I
I
mean,
thought,
you couldn't do it where he goes to go find the doctor because I mentioned that to y'all earlier. But
yeah,
then going back and thinking about it, it's like it doesn't work that way.
it doesn't. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. There's something strange about their choices here. But at the end of the day, her performance is great. Her character is good. And then Ray
Ray
Fiennes,
finds
I feel like he also a very good performance. He was a weird, creepy guy, and but still had a lot of heart. He interacted with them well. I thought his character was cool. I thought it was a little over the top, a little unbelievable. And I understand, you know, sci-fi. It's you know, you can get out there, but I like, especially in this series, I enjoy the groundedness of it, and I felt like he was a little bit beyond that.
maybe a little too poetic for for you. Too much
Yeah,
emotional wisdom. He was super jacked too. I remember seeing all the photos of him training for this movie just to get super jacked as well. But Drew, I know how much of you are a fan of his. I am as well, but I know you are a super fan of Ray Fiennes. So did that his performance land for you?
It did for me. I'm like the exact opposite of what Jahan is saying. Like I was actually really into his performance, and somebody who has seemingly been living on this mainland for an extended period of time and surviving, and of course is in a very strange state, but like while definitely out there, still relatively coherent. I think that, you know, I actually really enjoyed his performance. Jodie Comer, I think, is in an interesting place in this movie just because I think it's you're given a difficult role when essentially she has some illness and has to, you know, portray. She's unreliable as like a narrator, so she's not like the main character, but there's times where she's completely there and you know, very motherly and kind, and there's other times where she, you know, doesn't even know where she is. So it's a tough role to play. And actually I noticed when the credits hit, the billing for this movie is really interesting. If you look at that kind of thing like I do, this is the type of stuff I study. But like Jodie Comer's top billed in this movie, and I would have thought probably Aaron Taylor Johnson would be, but Jodie Comer billed above Aaron Taylor Johnson. And then Jack O'Connell below that, which that's we don't need to talk about that. But then Alfie Williams, and then Ray Fiennes gets like the and credit or the with, you know, like that, the kind of highlighting the supporting role. So, I mean, based on the billing on the poster, or you know, in the credits, like Jodie Comer's the lead, is essentially the lead of this movie. Really, Alfie is, you know, Spike is really the lead of this movie, but I think that all surprised me just as like a tidbit of from a production standpoint.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I thought I didn't really watch the trailers that much or anything, but I was misled of who the star of this film was. As you just mentioned, it's not really until you watch the movie, you really don't know what's going on. You know, so you're in for a surprise of what's happening on that. But Ray Fiennes in this, I really think he helped put together some of the thematic pieces and the messaging about surviving. Some really good lines from him as well. But
Some of the
also,
themes may be hammered home like a little bit too obviously through him, but in a way that I didn't necessarily mind.
well, did they resonate with you, or you felt like they just got lost in the shuffle?
No, resonated. I'm just saying, like, it's some of the themes are almost spoken verbatim through him,
yeah.
you know, in making it a little obvious, but you know, a little on the nose, I should say, but not in a way I didn't enjoy.
Right.
There's something heavy-handed about saying, you know, we all must die when you're surrounded by bone pillars and a pile of skulls. It's just a little much. Like that stuff was where it got. I was like, come on, man, like that's a crazy person did that.
Yeah,
But
like the phrase "memento mori" plays a really big part of this movie in general, and part of the themes too.
That's fair.
That is true. You know that moment? I guess she was Jodie Comer's character was like dreaming or something, and then she was calling her son dad, and so she was thinking about her dad. We don't know who her dad was, right? We never got that.
No, I don't think so.
So I thought, because they showed a guy with his hands on her shoulder of a gentleman, and I thought it was gonna be like Ray Fiennes was the dad. And then when they find him, it's like, oh, that's my daughter. Like I thought that was where the story was going, and I thought that would have been a great twist if that was actually her father. Because I was like, why are they doing this dad thing so much, showing a guy with not showing his face, but showing her father there in her dreams or whatever it was, or I was kind of disappointed by that when they had like no connection other than he was just the resident crazy doctor that just enjoys the mainland, I guess. They didn't say they kicked him out, or did he just decide to leave on his own?
I think
I
just always lived on the mainland. I don't think he ever was a part of their community.
It almost comes across like he doesn't want to leave, like he likes to be there.
Yeah,
like he's made his home there and he's happy there in a weird way.
What'd you think about the alpha situation? And obviously not killing the alpha, I thought was also a strange thing.
Well, the alpha confused me a little bit because it comes across almost unkillable. There's a scene early on.
Well, there's two of them. It's not the same one.
Are there? I mean, that's the thing. Like, they look exactly the same.
Yeah, Samson's a different alpha than the one that gets killed as they're running back to the island or to the village that gets killed by the tower. That's a different alpha. So the alphas are somehow coming up, and there's multiple alphas that can be
I get that there's multiple alphas, but is it the same actor portraying? I mean, they look the same.
No, Samson's totally different.
Yeah, totally different guy.
They just have long hair. They just have Fabio looks, but the alphas are Fabio replicants, I will say.
I don't have up IMDb, like the cast list. I
hope I'm not wrong.
Wikipedia right now, and I just see an actor cast as the alpha, but it doesn't specify beyond that. So I'd have to look and see if there's multiple. But
look for Samson, and that's what they named him.
Because
I'm pretty sure that one died.
Yeah, there's only one named the alpha in the characters, and so
Samson's a separate character than Alpha.
Okay. That's just, it was Wikipedia confusing me then.
Unless I'm wrong.
Wikipedia is always right.
Well, so IMDb does not have an alpha listed. They just have Samson.
Okay, that makes sense.
Is it Chew Lewis Pare?
Yeah, that's who I see on Wikipedia as just the alpha.
Yeah,
Lewis. Oh, is that what it says? So
that's what it says.
Yeah, but the first alpha wasn't as tan.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the first alpha was a white guy.
Yeah, I think it was Caucasian.
I'm pretty sure he got because that guy got hit with a ballista. I'm pretty sure he died.
I tell you what, there's something that these alphas definitely do have in common, but we'll keep it PG.
Yeah, we'll keep it PG for our R-rated movie. But yeah, there a lot of nudity in this film. I will say that. But just like the first film, you got some shock factor, on some opening scenes.
There's a lot of full frontal in this movie, which you don't get in a lot of movies. So, I mean, I guess enjoy it. I don't know. It's a rare thing. But the alphas, yeah, man, the alphas are, it's another thing, like I was saying, how 28 years or 28 days, changed the genre. They've kind of played with the smart zombie thing, but having them operate in these hierarchical packs in this tribal way is really cool
and scary.
Yeah, they've like adapted to live in nature, because in 28 days later they couldn't live beyond like 28 days or whatever, because they would starve to death or whatever whatever it would be. But now they've adapted, they've learned to eat. You see also the other cast of this infected society, the low and slows, which are the big old chunky zombies,
these gluttonous, crawling, obese zombies that are sucking worms off the ground. So gross.
I loved them, dude. They were gross, but they were creepy and unsettling. Everything that you want from this kind of from the genre. But when they're moving, they're terrifying. And so I just thought it was cool that they had these different kinds. I've seen people play with the idea of different kind of zombies, sort of Left 4 Dead style in movies before, and it always comes off like very video gamey, very kind of campy. In this, I feel like they were well thought out and well executed.
It's like they all have their own personality and their
Yeah.
own types of movement, and they have individuality, I guess. I want to circle back because it is bothering me. Like, why did they not get rid of Samson? What was up with just making him go to sleep? Why did they not want to slit his throat or anything and just be done with it?
I mean, my reasoning for that is like I don't know if it's as easy to kill that. Like we did talk about how the first one we assume was killed the way he's killed, but like unless you have a ballista, as Jahan mentioned, like do we know that even just a knife to the throat will even really get this thing? I mean,
Yeah.
he could endure a lot. He endured multiple bullets through him and would still charge ahead. So
It's possible Ray Fiennes just didn't want to risk it. When he was just paralyzed, he's like, I don't know if I can take this thing. I'm just gonna leave. Like, and that he's playing it safe, but also plot armor, I guess. So that you get to keep the big scary around. But yeah, I don't know that I would try to execute that thing if it was paralyzed either. That guy was huge.
Yeah, well, Samson's a very good name for him. I'll say that. Visually, let's talk visually. There's a behind the scenes look. I just love the landscapes and just how this movie was shot in general. I thought it was absolutely gorgeous. So many shots actually remind me of the original film. Some of the angles, some of the ways they filmed it, that's the parts I really, really enjoyed. But you could pause this movie at any time. It'd be like a haunting, just landscape. It's just a character of its own. And Boyle really knows how to shoot, I feel like. And what was it? They shot this like with iPhone cameras too. So I think I don't know how much they shot with iPhone, but they did, which is really amazing. But he knows how to shoot intensity. And like I said, I just love this Garland Boyle team up. I loved Civil War, Alex Garland Civil War. So I think some of the shots reminded me of that film. So maybe Alex Garland was able to kind of get some of his own kind of shots in there as well, things that he has an eye for. Drew, was there any sequences that stood up for you?
So a lot actually, and this is the part I really wanted to get into because I think for me, stepping away from this movie and visually, and this is very much a Danny Boyle movie. And again, having seen his whole filmography and watching this is I think why I'm walking away from this so high is that this felt like a little bit more on brand Danny Boyle, who has made some movies that I really like. I mean, Trainspotting's a classic. The Beach is kind of a wild movie with Leonardo DiCaprio that a lot of people don't like, but it does a lot of interesting things. Sunshine is an awesome sci-fi movie, but then you have like his best director and best picture winner, Slumdog Millionaire, following with the 127 Hours, Steve Jobs, and then the most recent film he made was 6 years ago, which was Yesterday, which was the movie where the Beatles disappear, and a movie that like has an interesting premise but doesn't really work all the way through. And I think that's what is interesting to me with Danny Boyle is like he takes a lot of risks, he does a lot of interesting things technologically. But this movie, like the moment where the score sets in or this music sets in, that's like very frenetic and intense and a lot of cuts to like historical events and things like that is Danny Boyle to a T. And that's where parts of this movie made me feel like Trainspotting or, really harken back to 28 Days Later. And I was just like, oh man, like Danny Boyle is back after a 6-year gap. And it feels like he's kind of back to classic Boyle. And so I think I really enjoyed the Boyle of it all. And that's why some of the risks and things that he does here, just, it makes the whole thing interesting to watch when you're seeing quick cuts back and forth to different angles of the same thing. And just the music, like giving me chills and making me feel the anxiety. That's the stuff that I really, really enjoy about this film and the franchise and what it does differently. So yeah, I thought that, I mean, even the first, we talked about the low and slow. Is it slow and low or low and slow?
Low and slows, I think.
Roly polies.
The first time we're really like exposed to them, you see, you see it from the view of its back crawling on the ground, and it's just like this blob moving, and you see like the decaying zombie skin, and it's really gross looking, and you're not even sure exactly what you're seeing until you see the pan out. Like things like that, it just was like, it just took me into that world, and I thought it really worked.
Jahan, what do you think how Boyle handled this film compared to the first film?
I mean, it has a lot of the same appeal. A lot of the big, faraway shots of the landscape, with the characters being small, going through the spaces. He does a really good job of showing the desolation and like the absence of people in the world. But while still showing the world that was, every chance he gets. It had a lot of that. Drew said something, the suspense. I noticed a lot of the time while we were watching, I was actually like holding my breath. There's a lot of really intense scenes. I was like, man, like he really captured it. All the scenes where they're fighting the infected they don't feel actiony. They feel desperate. They feel hopeless, and you can't believe when they make it out of there. Which is hard to pull off, especially for like a jaded zombie viewer like me. Like he does a really good job of making the creatures feel like a threat, even though they're dumb, even though they're slow, or I mean, some of them are fast, but it had some of the best infected zombie sequences I've ever seen, especially the one towards the beginning where they first encountered the pack and they're fleeing, and that scene,
shot on the hill where you see them all come up in the silhouettes, it's so great.
Yeah, that really reminds me of 28 weeks later, in the opening sequence of that, where they're in the house and they're living day to day, and then they have to flee, and you just see them pouring over these hills and running at it's just so terrifying. So yeah, it was definitely, it definitely ties into those similar styles, but this movie, I feel like he definitely was being more, as Drew saying, because I'm not really familiar with his filmography. I don't really look at things like that. It's not how I do it. I'm not good at that whole thing, but he seems more comfortable with his style. He definitely he's not afraid to showcase it. Maybe he has more pull now, being this super famous director, than he did in 2002. But yeah, it was a very cool, a very well shot thing. I liked all the imagery that of the like archers that they kept shooting back to, and just, I don't know, showing people the whole world's fucked up and changed, but he with these flashbacks, he kind of shows how it's the same as it's ever been, which I find really interesting. But yeah, I thought it was shot beautifully.
Well, and talking about the way it's shot, because I want to talk just very briefly about the technology, but like it's worth noting that 28 days later, back in 2002, that a lot of that film was shot on like a Canon digital video camera at the time, which was like newer technology then, but it also made it harder when other movies started transitioning to HD. To like, I think that's why that movie has taken a while to be like remastered in HD and brought, in that capacity, but it's just super small and maneuverable, and that's why they were able to film in like parts of London early in the morning or when there's nobody around, because they could get in and get out and do it quickly to create the feeling of there being no people in an area that is typically extremely busy. And so to kind of mimic that, I'm looking here that a lot of this movie was shot, and Sean, you had a picture of it up earlier on the stream, that a lot of this film was shot using iPhone 15 Max, which they have like this rig here set up, in this picture, where those are all iPhones in a big semicircle that they're filming it on. And so I think that's why this movie really feels like a true sequel to the original, because it has that kind of digital look to it, that's a little bit less polished, which works so well for this world and why it all looks so gritty.
Yeah, it's perfect. I mean, Boyle has a vision and he goes with it, and not much push. I don't think there was much pushback of what he wanted to do, even though I feel like he kind of lost its way a little bit in the film. We mentioned 28 Weeks Later. I think that's a movie that still doesn't get enough praise. It's not perfect or amazing, but I think it's a great addition. It was a great follow up to 28 Days Later. I actually really enjoyed it. I think it's fantastic. So I still love 28 Days Later. It's my favorite out of the three, followed by 28 Weeks Later, obviously, and then this one I have to put third, personally. But it's still a very worthy addition. And they already filmed the follow up. Drew, what was the title for the follow up to 28 Years Later?
It's 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple is what I'm seeing now. And I didn't realize this at the time, but apparently they came out and said this, I guess, back last year. And Nia DaCosta has directed it. And, she did the Candyland, the Candyman kind of Lego sequel a few years ago, but also directed the Marvels most recently, and now is kind of going back to more genre horror stuff. And I mean, it sounds like they filmed these back to back, and Aaron Taylor Johnson's the one that let that slip, and so it's slated for 2026. And the fact that Aaron Taylor Johnson is in this one makes me think that it gives a little bit more reason to me as to why he was sidelined for a bit of 28 Years Later. And it sounds like he will play a bigger role in this kind of direct sequel to that one.
I hope so. Jahan, if when they go with the sequel, like, what do you want to see them do next? Like, where do you want to see? You can talk about that ending too in this film that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, the ending was interesting to say the least. You see the jumpsuit ninjas.
Well, let's be vague about this one, because I think that what we can say is that this movie's gonna ends on a note that will probably be pretty divisive.
It ends on a very tonally different note.
1,000,000%.
It almost changes like genres completely. Like it's campy. It's fun. I think it's funny. And I've seen them do stuff like this in other movies. Like they kind of do some silly stuff at the end of the original Dawn of the Dead. And I don't know. It's just, it does happen in zombie movies that they ended on a silly note for whatever reason. I thought it was dumb in this instance. I was like, this is kind of dumb. One of the characters we see is just he's just a caricature. And
he's a character. Fine. He's a character we see as a young kid in the beginning,
he's
right?
He's a character you see as a young kid in the beginning. They finally bring him back. You get to see what happened to that kid.
Portrayed by Jack O'Connell, who played kind of the lead vampire in Sinners this year. So,
that's right.
Again, going from playing a vampire to playing a, I guess a zombie killer.
Yeah, it was very much that like European sort of humor.
It's like that Nick Frost, Simon Pegg style humor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it just switched. It turned into a Nick Frost, Simon Pegg movie at the end, and it was silly. But yeah, what I want to see in the Bone Temple is a return to some seriousness. I want to see Aaron Taylor Johnson looking for his son, and because that's where it seemed like it was going. I thought that was going to be a big part of the second act, and it wasn't. And I just want to see him back out there trying to make amends. And I don't know. I thought his character was very well written and he did a good job acting him. I want to see more of that. And I guess I'm interested to see what happens to Spike. He was a cool character that kind of got the short end of the stick at the end, but
also made some dumb decisions. We're like, come on now. Other than that,
really dumb decisions.
Other than his dumb decisions, I thought he acted really great as Spike, obviously, and his character was really the vulnerability in the beginning and how he was able to kill some zombies, but didn't really want to at times, and everything else. And I wanted to see how he develops, how his character develops, being on his own and being very strong, being on his own. He was fine. He was like, I'm sticking this out. I'm not going back to land. I'm going to be one with the mainland and these zombies and survive, which is really interesting. What about you, Drew? What do you want to see in the upcoming follow-up?
Well, I'll say this kind of regarding the end of 28 Years Later, and I'm not always advocating for the Marvelization of all movies, but it just seems like it maybe would have made a little bit more sense to like end this movie the way it should have ended on like on a little bit more somber note, and you could still leave it as like a bit of a cliffhanger, kind of open-ended, but then take this divisive scene at the end of the movie that is, I mean, I completely agree with everything you said, Jahan and Yushan. It's like tonally, it doesn't really fit. It ends the movie on like kind of a wild note compared to where it was just like 2 minutes before this scene happens. It almost would have made more sense to end the movie and then have this be like a mid-credit scene, or even take place after the credits, or just I could see you putting it somewhere and then maybe do like a quick montage of scenes from this sequel that's allegedly coming next year, and then put that title up 28 years later, The Bone Temple, and then like, okay, we're getting this crazy scene, but we know we're getting another movie next year or something like that. Just seems like maybe it would have been a better move, or you just cut this scene out entirely and put it in the next movie. Like, I don't know what the right move is, but it seems like maybe going like a mid credits or end credits would have potentially been better. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's just weird because like when you look at the two like bookends of this movie, right? You have this wacky ending. The opening was so harrowing and messed up, and like it was one of the better like opening infected sequences I've seen. Like it was wild. There's a lot of stuff happening. It was gripping and terrifying.
Yeah, you got the Teletubbies.
Yeah, the Teletubbies were there. It was crazy. And so you start with that and you end with this. It's just a weird shift, you know?
And especially knowing that Cillian Murphy is going to be part of that follow-up. Yeah, they could have ended with a little tease.
Allegedly, yeah, he's apparently
has
been seen filming, and
it's confirmed. Yeah. I'm guessing he's in it.
I mean, Cillian Murphy. People thought that there were images of zombies.
Did I say Cillian Murphy? Did I say Cillian? Cillian Murphy.
It is Cillian. I mean, there were people that thought it was him when we saw early images of one of the undead in this movie, which was we can now
what
officially
a horrible
say,
compliment
seen the movie.
That's not him.
It's not him. But I don't mind necessarily, like, you have this movie 28 years later, which again, an imperfect movie, but one that I really enjoyed, and one that's a lot about the relationship between this son and his father, but then a lot between him and his mother, and the journey he's on, and have this movie be that and take that tone, and then have this sequel be more like, you can put a little bit more camp in it. And you have this strange cult leader and stuff coming in, and what did you start to call them, Jahan? Like the jumpsuit,
the jumpsuit ninjas, yeah,
whatever. Like, have that be this next one that's like a little bit more camp, but maybe still some cool stuff. I don't know. Like, I think there's room to play around with that, but just sticking it at the end of this movie, it was a choice that maybe some people will enjoy and some people won't.
I just felt like this movie was a little too on a small scale, right? Not major battles or anything against the infected, not much of the cast in it. It's really just a small story on a small scale, and just really focusing on a couple characters at a time, which is fine, but didn't expect that. If we were going to wait that long for a follow-up, I thought it was going to be something
that's true.
Huge. And
you know what,
on an epic scale.
That really seems to be like the Sony move now in general, like, not to make it too big picture, but what's the other big Sony release that came out this summer? It was Karate Kid Legends, which is another franchise movie, kind of like a legacy sequel, a combining of the franchise, different entries of the franchise, but like that movie bills itself as a blockbuster summer movie, but made on like a pretty small budget. And same with 28 Years Later is this like big genre horror movie. Now, granted, it's an R-rated genre movie. I'll be really interested to see how it does at the box office, because I think critically this movie is going to do pretty well, but I don't know how the general public will respond to it, because it is different. It's a slow burn, and it's not like your typical jump scare horror movie. But again, this one's allegedly made for a $60 million budget, which is, it's a high budget, but not like the crazy $100 million.
Hey, the first film was made with like $8 million, so this is pretty high budget for that.
but like Sony, their big summer tent poles are made for, by comparison to the other big summer blockbusters, like made for relatively smaller budgets. And it's interesting the tactic they're doing.
That is true, but their films are very quality, surprisingly, for some of the budgets they have. They do produce some good stories and some good entertainment for the big screen. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Especially when they don't have the highest budget, which they save those for Spider-Man, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I will say, part of my final thoughts, when you ranked the movies, I think 28 Days Later is definitely my favorite. I think this one and 28 Weeks kind of tie. Like I like them both for different reasons. This one has some of my favorite scenes. But that being said, even if this movie is my least favorite of the series, as far as like in the grand scope of zombie and infected movies, this is far from the bottom. I think that this is actually pretty high up there, quality wise. But yeah, that ending is so weird. I actually had a funny thought about it. I was like, what if they're doing regional endings? You know, like what if this isn't the real? What if we were just shown like the Clue endings?
Yeah, God, the Clue endings. Drew, are you aware of this? We have to save that for another episode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like what Sean and I reviewed. John, we reviewed Ballerina. Recently, like a couple weeks ago, whenever we did, and which is a John Wick spinoff movie, and that is a franchise where I like all of the entries, and Ballerina to me was probably the worst of the entries, but still a movie I enjoyed. And so it's kind of like with this, like even if you're saying 28 Years Later is the worst in the franchise for you, it's like it's a franchise where you like all the entries, so saying that is not like, it's not damning the movie. You know,
exactly.
You still liked it a lot. The worst movie in this franchise is still significantly better than the best movie in other franchises.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Exactly. It's a quality movie. It just didn't land where we wanted to. Waiting this long, I figured it would have been like a big knockout, right? Because they had all this time to come up with something in a higher budget. But
a lot of my upsettedness, like it didn't land like you're saying, but at the same time, I didn't know there was another one coming out. So that kind of, for me, I'm just excited again. You know?
And I didn't know that till we sat down to record this, and I was just perusing. I'm like, wait, there's another one coming out next year. So I mean,
I didn't know until you told me. That's exciting.
The three of us might be back here again in a year talking.
Yeah, that'll be part 2 of this episode. It'll be here 12 months later.
If not, I mean, this is saying January 2026, which if that's the case, we're going to be waiting much less than 12 months. I don't know if that release date will stick.
There you go. So Johanna, please put that on your calendar. You're coming back.
Obviously
before then, but we're going to have a follow-up to that episode in January. But yeah, I think that's a wrap on this episode of the Moviegoers Society. Huge thanks to everyone tuning in. Shout out to Jahan for joining us. He's definitely coming back, and you don't have to wait till January to come back, Jahan. Don't worry. But that will be the one that we're going to have back-to-back double features, obviously, for that. If you watch 28 Years Later, let us know what you thought about it, or tell us what you loved about, 28 Weeks Later or 28 Days Later. I will say that in the movie 28 Years Later, there is a moment when it says 28 days later, and I was like, oh, that's a nice callback right there. Yeah. But we got more reviews, more interviews, of course, and more hot takes coming your way. Just visit nerdtropolis.com. Jahan, go ahead and do some of your fun plugs so people know where to follow you and check you out.
Check me out, Jahan on Blue Sky. You can also watch me run my TTRPGs on Fresh Out the Box at twitch.tv/Jahananon. And also, don't forget to check out Fresh Out the Podcast, available everywhere that you can get podcasts, with me and Drew being charming.
Drew is in high demand, but thanks for hanging out with us. And Drew, how are we going to end this one? You go for it.
Well, I'm Drew Munhausen, the professional media and movie mastermind. As Jahan said, Fresh Out the Podcast, we actually just dropped an episode with our thoughts and impressions of the Switch 2 after getting some time with it. We each got the new console, and
Me too, and I'm waiting
time
for
with-
you to send me your information so I can add you. Jahan and I are connected. We are
Oh
not
shoot!
on
I
the
did. Okay,
friends,
we have to connect. I'll send you my friend code.
Yeah, we're gonna switch it up.
But we talked we did talk a little bit about some Mario Kart World thoughts and so on. So yeah, just check us out over there at Fresh Out the Box. We talk movies and stuff on there too, but we do a lot of video game talk as well, and sometimes TV and stuff. So whereas here on the Moviegoers Society, we focus a lot more on the movies, as we just said, but John and I like to just nerd out and talk about all the things that we're enjoying. So yeah, just if you like listening to us here, check out Fresh Out the Podcast when you get a chance. But otherwise, yeah, as I said, I'm Drew Munhausen. I'm the professional media and movie mastermind. And Sean, you take it from here.
I'll take it from here. All right, I'm Sean Chargeworth, the mayor of Nerdtropolis, and we'll see you at the movies with Jahan.